October What You're Reading, where the four of us talk about our favorite books that we read this past month and that we hope that you'll read. So I'm Hana.
I'm Ashley.
I'm Liz.
I'm Melanie.
And who wants to go first?
Okay.
You go first, Mel.
Everyone is looking at me.
Yes.
Okay.
And 3 minutes on the timer.
Okay. So I always talk about creepy books, but I actually found one that was too creepy for me.
What?
And I
No.
stopped reading it because, well, I had to stop because it was nighttime, and I was like, I don't like this. So this is, it's an anthology of 5 short stories in graphic novel form by Abby Howard, and she wrote The Last Halloween, which is also great. It's like a giant 500-page
Holy cow.
graphic novel. And she, oh, that's a really scary page. I'm trying to open to a page that's not scary.
But it is a horror. So.
Okay, so it's like pen. So it's all black and white pen drawings. And this one was very scary. So it says on the back, around the dark edges of reality lurk unknown beings of unknowable intentions. Ordinary objects can become cursed possessions. Entities who seem like friends can become monstrous, and those who seem monstrous can become the truest companions. 5 stories show you what happens when one is desperate enough to seek solace in the unnatural, and what happens when the world of humans collides with something else. Have caution when reaching into the darkness, because you never know what waits for you at the crossroads at midnight.
No.
So it was good, but terrifying, because usually when I read scary books, I don't see it, so I can make it less scary in my brain. But this one, I saw it, and I was like, ew.
Are they really gory pictures?
Yes. So, like, the
Oh.
first one's a really gory, like, body mutilated stuff. And then, like, the second one is, like, skin falls off. And, like, I only made it to the third one. And that one wasn't as scary. But it was, if you like scary stuff, this is awesome. Super gory. I think guys and girls will like it because it's, like, just Halloween-y stuff. So,
Yeah.
if you're looking for scary things on Halloween, this is really good. And I like Abby Howard's other work, too.
Cool.
All right. Cancel and start. So the first one I'm going to talk about is The Little Mermaid, or How to Find Love Underwater, a Blackout poem by J.M. Farkas. Very pretty. So it's a really neat book. It's brand new to our catalog. It's the tale of The Little Mermaid by Hans Christian Andersen, but it's given a new life through Blackout poetry.
That's pretty cool.
So it tells a new story of a young mermaid who wants to be seen as older, because we all know that the Little Mermaid, she's a young girl. So since she wants to be seen as older, she sees a prince swimming, she rescues him, she kisses him, and discovers that she doesn't need to change herself to be adventurous and doesn't need a guy in her life. She's a beautiful mermaid princess. You have to be able to love yourself, and at the end, the author encourages you to try and do a story of your own through Blackout poetry. So if you have a book that it's falling apart, instead of getting rid of it, reinvent it. You tell a new story out of an old one. But it's really pretty. And then at the end of the Blackout poetry section, as I flip very quickly to it, there's an author's note, which tells you what inspired her to write it, but also the words that she pulled out of the story. This is her poem that she created.
Cool.
And it was a really fun, fast read and a new interpretation on The Little Mermaid. So that was fun.
I wonder if when she was writing it, if she wrote her poem first and then looked through it to find the words, or just like if those words jumped out at her and that's how she created it.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Did she say?
There's an
I'm
author.
trying to see. Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's fine.
If you're
No,
wondering,
she went through and
Yeah.
pulled out words.
Wow.
And
that's
then
crazy.
that did the story. So she was surprised when she reread the original Hans Christian Andersen version. Not only is this story incredibly dark and strange, I noticed things about the Little Mermaid that I had somehow ignored or dismissed. This prince-obsessed fish was willing to give away her voice, her most precious gift, just to land a guy. She was willing to change her body in exchange for someone she barely knew who, more tragically, didn't know her too. And he was a terrible swimmer. Like, oh my gosh. And she talks about how she loved going swimming. So you have her version of The Little Mermaid, Blackout poetry, and then when you turn the book over and ignore my little notes, you have the original story of The Little Mermaid, so you
That
can
is so
compare and
neat.
contrast.
I love that.
But I was like, oh, this is intriguing. Let's order it. And it
Yeah.
turned out to be really, really cool. So, The Little Mermaid, or How to Find Love Underwater.
I love that.
I like the title too.
Mhm.
Yes.
All right, I have Kiki KALLIRA Breaks a Kingdom by SANGU MANDANNA, excuse me. And it's a great romp through a little girl's imagination. And she is 12 years old, and she has really bad anxiety. So, like, to the point where she's out playing with her friends, and then she can't remember if she locked the door before she left, and her mom might get murdered by someone breaking
Oh
in.
no.
Yeah, so she goes home, she rides the bus and she goes home to check, and she misses out on her play dates and stuff. So to deal with all that anxiety she has, she starts drawing in her sketchbook and creating these stories based on old Indian legends. And she brings those legends to life. Somehow, with her anxiety and everything, she imbues the stories with magic, and she brings them to life. And eventually she gets sucked into her sketchbook and goes on this crazy quest to save the kingdom she created.
Oh wow.
Very, very cool, yes. So Kiki KALLIRA Breaks a Kingdom. There's a ton of characters in it, it's great. It does a good job of, you know, normalizing that anxiety that a lot of kids are feeling right now, especially. And what I love about it is she doesn't, like, it doesn't just magically go away. She just learns to deal with it and to live with it. So it's a really good one, and I love it how it just brings so much art into it and everything. So, and I learned a lot about the Indian legends as well. So it was a really cool one to read.
That's neat. So are they like actual legends, or is it
Yes.
like,
These are based on the actual
Religious.
legends with the gods and goddesses.
yeah, because, I mean, like, for which religion does it say?
In there somewhere.
Yeah.
They were, a lot of them were stories that her mom told her as she was growing up, but they're passed down in their religion. And I didn't know much about it, and I still don't know much about it because a lot of it was in her imagination. She's just bringing it back.
Okay.
And as she's going through her quest, she has to remember what really happened in the legends and how the story got warped so that she can put it back to normal.
I was just
So it
curious
was cool.
because there could, I mean, if there is anybody reading it that,
Mhm.
you know, is a member of that religion, like it might actually be stories that they already know or whatever,
Yeah,
so.
that'd
I
be
would,
cool.
I think so.
We can look it up and add it.
I assumed they were,
should.
yes.
Okay, let me talk about mine.
Mm-hmm.
Ace of Spades, let me look at this author. Farida Abike Iyamidi, something like that. There's a lot of accent
I
marks in
looked-
there, so I was
Whoa.
like,
I looked it
I
up
probably
and I
mispronounced
don't
that.
remember how to say it.
So this story, I was totally into it as far as like what is going to happen, but I don't know if I liked where it went necessarily, but it is interesting. It goes into a lot of social commentary about racism and stuff in this school. So
Mm-hmm.
the two main characters are Devin and Chiamaka, and they both have some iffy history, some things they've gotten into that they shouldn't have, but they're both prefects at this school, this fancy boarding school, and she's working to be valedictorian, and he's sort of like, everybody knows who she is, and he's sort of more behind the scenes, but they're the only two black kids in this school, and so therefore everybody knows who they are, right? So they are, you know, living their lives, and then this anonymous person going by Ace of Spades, starts like sending messages to everybody. Like this first one says, all you need to know is I'm here to divide and conquer like all great tyrants do. And he's basically only talking about these two people, and he's like ruining their lives over the
Wow.
course of the book. And so they get together and they're trying to figure out who is it. And I don't want to give anything away, but who it turns out to be just blew my mind. I was like,
In a good way or a bad way?
to me, in an unbelievable way.
Okay.
So I guess to me that's kind of bad.
Mhm.
But I mean, I'm not a black person, so maybe it could be like something that would be realistic for somebody. But I'm just like, there's no way people can be that racist, is how I felt at the end, you know? But
Right. Yeah.
anyways, it was good. It was good writing and everything, so
Mhm.
check it out. Especially if you're into the, you know, like social justice issues. I think you would find it fascinating.
Okay. This is my favorite book I've read in probably at least 2 years,
Whoa.
honestly. So this is Rules for Vanishing by Kate Alice Marshall. And so this is set in a small town that has a history like a ghost story. So there was this girl named Lucy Callows who she disappeared down this road that only appears like once every couple years. And she went missing and they never found her. So this main girl's sister a year ago also went missing, but they said she just ran away, but she knew that she went down this road. So her and the girl's sister and her like 7 friends all decide that they're going to go down this road and try and find the sister. So they end up in like this crazy world where like they have to follow these rules, and there are these like creatures, like monstrous creatures, and like ghosts and like possession, and like it's told in 3 different perspectives. So it's the girl telling the story of what happened when they were on the road, and then current time interviews with the main girl who's telling the story, and then video evidence, pictures, conversations, text messages that happened before. So it's told all these different ways, and like I was reading through it, and in one of the interview sections they're talking about this person that she has this picture of, but she doesn't know who it is, but they were with her on the road. So it's like, what happens? And like all of these things were happening in like such a crazy order, and like it's so good. I don't feel like I'm doing justice to it because it's so good, but it's so like complexly written.
Yeah.
That,
Very complicated.
it's so good. I recommend it to everyone. I made my mom read it.
Oh
I
my
made my
gosh.
husband read it.
Did they like it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is it a supernatural? Is that
Yes,
what that
it's
says? Okay.
YA supernatural. Yeah.
Cool.
But like my mom finished it and she was like, "Get me every other book by this author."
Wow.
So like it's great.
All right.
She just has a new book that came out called Our Last Echoes that came out last month.
Ooh.
Is that part of that story? or is it
No,
different?
this whole story is wrapped up in this book.
Oh, cool.
So like the whole
I
thing
like that.
is done, and it explains everything that you're like, wait, what? What? Huh? What? Throughout the whole book, like it's so good. I love this book. I actually bought this book too
Wow.
because I loved it so much.
Okay.
So I'm gonna make
To
you
your
all read it.
ever-growing
Yes, my
collection.
ever-growing 401 books now.
Oh my gosh. All right, my next one is called Rainbow and Black, Story and Art by Eri Takanashi, and it's a new it's a new manga series that we have in the system now. And the character is Shirahoshi Kuro, is a college student who sees everything in black and white. It's one way or another. And at the very beginning, you see that she's a waitress in a cafe, and she gets groped and she punches the guy, but because she punched him, she gets fired. So it was self-defense, but
Yeah.
you know, she
Yeah.
sees it black and white, and the manager's like, no, goodbye. So she's on the way home, and she sees a cage in their garbage area, and she's like, large items aren't supposed to be put here, what's going on? And she sees this little creature.
Oh, he's cute.
It's like a little sheep. Little lamb.
Those are feathers.
Oh, those are feathers?
Those
Oh
are
my
feathers.
gosh.
So she gets fired, and she finds this strange animal. So she does research, and it's called the rainbow-colored heavenly parrot. And no one knows anything about them. They're like, oh, is it related to a platypus? Is it related to a bird? No, it cannot be defined. And so that blows her mind because, again, it's this or that. No one knows. And she's like, twitch, twitch, twitch. And it's so cute. So she contacts a zoo who has a few of these. And she's like, yeah, I've been, trying to take care of it. And now it's, standing up and doing this little happy dance. It's like, oh, it's courting you. It's chosen you to be its human. Oh, how long do they live? 80 years.
Oh my goodness.
So now she can't get rid of it. And so it's her learning more. And it's like, oh, you're so cute and cuddly. And so bringing color and, colors into her black and white life.
That's cool.
So it decides to court Kuro. And Kuro in Japanese means black. So it's like, oh, the mom's like, oh, that is so cute. Some color in your life. Have fun. So it's her human now.
So cute.
So she learns to take care of Niji, which is rainbow in Japanese. And And so it just baffles her, and it's a new way of thinking. So book 1, it's super cute. And then she actually runs into another girl who has one, because they've been social mediating back and forth through Twitter. But it can't be defined, but it's really cute, and I would recommend it. But again, that's rainbow and black.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it does.
It is. It's super
Very
cute.
Okay, so I've been waiting to talk about this book. I actually haven't finished it. I've got 1 chapter left. I just couldn't stay awake last night. Yeah, I tried too. But Redemptor by Jordan Ifweko. Did I say that right? Oh, I did. And it is the sequel to The Ray Bearer. So I don't want to give away what was going on in The Ray Bearer if you haven't read it yet. So a lot of what was going on in this book is a continuation of that one, obviously. So in the last book, Tarisai lives in this place called Bikina House, and she is very lonely, and she's starved for love because her mom is always, every time she comes in, she's looking for her to pass a test, and when she can't pass the test, she leaves. So a lot goes on in the last book where she goes on this great quest, and she discovers there's an underworld, and there's these evil creatures coming to try to take over Earth and everything. And in this next book, it takes place like right after the events in the first book, and like a lot of people die right away. It's
my gosh.
I mean, it goes from that was pretty dark to whoa, this is really dark, and it kind of slips into horror too. I think you'd really enjoy
Like
it.
all the characters
I
at
had
the
some
beginning
nightmares.
that die, are they ones that you know from the first book, or
Some.
Okay,
Some.
or there's like, oh,
Yes,
you know,
but like
Tom's
just a
destroyed.
lot of people just dying all over the place, and
Oh my gosh.
it's very bloody and it's so good. It's so action packed and so quick though, you can't put it down. And it gets really dark too because you get more of the underworld coming in and the evil demons and everything. And there's these creatures called Ojiji, and they're the little Redemptor children. In the first book, these children are thrown into the pit of hell, basically, as sacrifices.
Shabba.
But if they make it, very few of them actually make it through the underworld. You have to do I think you have to go through 7 different transformations, and then you get this spirit animal thing and stuff, and you get to go out and be powerful in your own right, which is pretty cool. And you don't get enslaved by the demons. But most of the kids that go down there, centuries and centuries worth of kids, get enslaved by these demons, and they become these Ojiji, and they're creepy little kids that are bloody and they're rotting, they have no eyeballs, and they crawl on the walls and go, it's your fault we're like this, and they kill people, and they're terrifying.
Goodness,
So
I want to read it.
no. I had nightmares. The first few chapters in, with the Ojiji coming and haunting us and haunting the characters, they're haunting you too. They are absolutely terrifying. And a lot goes on in this, but she wraps it up beautifully in the end, except for my only complaint is they built it up, and they built up that underworld so much, I wanted a little bit more. I wanted a whole book's more of I want more demons, I want more I don't want more Ojiji, but I do.
You're I've had enough of those.
Yes, and it's a total mind twist throughout this whole thing, but it was really good. And the first book was like that too. If you read the first book, it's you're constantly having to go back and go, okay, wait, this story said this and this story said that. And it's all about, it's got that West African culture with all of the stories building on stories. And it's absolutely beautiful, and it comes to an explosive end. So definitely read it.
Wow.
Yes. And the Ojiji will haunt you forever.
It's your fault.
Okay. These two don't sound that exciting after listening to those. But they were good. And I'm going to talk about them together because this is the first one, The River, and this is The Guide, is the second one. And I just read this one. I read this last year. But I don't think you necessarily have to read the first one. It could stand on its own, but I think it's better if you know the history, So in The River, it's these two guys that are friends in college. Win and Jack are their names, and they're totally excited to go on this very remote canoeing trip in Canada. So they think they're prepared to be out there a month by themselves, camping, canoeing, fishing, total guys, happy time. But anyway, so they go out in the river, and all of a sudden there's like a wildfire. And so they're not sure, like maybe this is a bad idea. Then they hear a man and a woman on their first night camping, they hear a man and a woman arguing, and they think something bad might have happened to the woman. And then they find the man by himself later, but they don't know for sure that it's him. And so there's like all kinds of like, what is actually going on? And it turns into this big wilderness survival thing. And one of the characters dies. So then in the second book, it's all about the other character who's remaining, and then he has a whole nother thing. He goes and he decides he's going to be a river guide for this.
Face your fear.
Yeah,
He
pretty
didn't get
much.
enough in
I
the
mean,
first book.
he has like PTSD, but being outside in nature like helps him. So he goes to this. It's called Kingfisher Lodge. So the rich and the famous go there and pay lots of money to have a personal fly fishing guide, and he goes and helps. And then there's another mystery going on there that they solve.
Dun, dun,
I think it's
Yeah.
a little more
But-
satisfying when rich people die.
Yeah.
And
It is.
someone's gonna die.
When bad people die. Anyway, what I really like about them is the writing, because you can tell the author really loves nature, and the writing is so beautiful and just like makes me want to go hiking and stuff, which I like doing.
Oh,
Not,
awesome.
not, you know.
In that situation.
Right, I don't want to be out there
Not
trying to
surviving.
survive for a month or whatever, but I do love nature, so
Making it for
I really like this author. All his books,
All right.
I think, are really
What was his name?
nature-based.
Peter Heller?
Peter Heller, I don't know if I said. Yeah, thank you.
I'm gonna say two more things about this book, because when everyone else was talking, it reminded me of things. A lot of people die.
We kind of figured.
And there's some language, I mean, they're all teenagers, so like, it does have some bad words in it, so if you don't like bad words, don't read it. But read it, just ignore them. And then one of the main characters' names is Melanie. And I love her because I
die.
feel like she is me. Like, she's like, nothing spooky, oh my gosh! Like, it's great. Okay, so that's great. Okay, so I'm gonna talk about these two books real quick. So this is a series that was on one of our lists that hadn't been checked out in a long time. So I was like, they're beautiful. Why is no one reading them? So I was like, let's find out. So the first one is called Glitter, and the second one is called Shatter, and they're by April Lynn Pike, and she's the author of the Wings series. I don't know if anyone read them from like 2013, like
The
forever
tattoo
ago.
one?
No.
No, okay.
But, so, this book is, they're so interesting because they're sci-fi, but they're also historical. So, it's set in like, it's set in the, like 2030 or something like that. But these people bought the Palace of Versailles from France and like made this treaty and made it its own country, where everyone who lives inside of it acts like they're still in the 18th century. So even though it's like 2060, whatever, like in the future, and they have robots that like act as servants and like tie their corsets and everything, everyone in there is living like they're in the 18th century.
I love it.
So it's so good. And so the main character, Danica, witnesses a murder in the beginning. And it is the person who's supposed to be the king, the future king, kills someone. So her mom just starts blackmailing him and she has to marry him. She's like, okay.
The killer?
Yes.
Oh.
So she's like, we know what
Thanks,
you
Mom.
did. Now she's going to marry you. She's going to be the queen. And this is what you get for being a bad person. And she's like, wow, thanks, Mom. Like, basically. So she wants to get out. And the only way that she thinks she can get out is by selling this new drug to the people in court. So that happens, like, very quickly. Like, in this part, she decides she has to do that. And then the rest of the book is her, like, figuring out, or the rest of both books is her figuring out, like, how far do I want to go to be better than this person? Like, because if I go to a certain extent, am I really better than them if I'm doing all these things wrong? But it was just so interesting because the drug is called glitter, and it's like diamond dust. Like, it's like sparkly. So it's so cool. It's great. Drugs are bad, but this book is good. But it was just so interesting, the dichotomy between everyone's living like they're in the 18th century, like
like that.
wearing rogue and
18th century and
dressing.
drugs.
Yeah.
And being a drug dealer.
Exactly. It was great. So I loved them. I thought they were very good. And it was less about like drugs and more about like business. Kind of like Breaking Bad, where like they do all this business. But yeah, it was really good. Yeah, 18th century Breaking Bad with robots. There we go. With robots.
My next book is also a new series that we have. It's called Ghostly Things by Ushio Shiratori. And a girl named Yachiho moves into a new house by herself, and it turns out to be haunted by this plethora of Japanese spirits that are really freaking her out. You find out her father is off doing research on Japanese folklore, and he's never around. So she's moving in, she's unpacking, she's going to high school, and you find out pretty early on that her mother mysteriously disappeared a few years ago. And so she knows that the gentleman, I think his name's Tachibana, who owned the house before, had this big study of books, and he was doing research too. So she's looking for the Book of the Dead, because it can open a portal into the Japanese spirit world, and she might be able to find her mother to see what happened. But one of the spirits she runs into, his name is Moro, and he ferries spirits from our world into Tokoyo, which is the spirit realm. So think of it as like Karen going across the river Styx, but you have this short, obnoxious spirit who eats all of her sweet food and her lunch. And she's like, "You ate my food!" And he's like, "Oh, well, I saved your life, and, you're working for me, so you owe me by feeding me and cooking me food."
Fair.
So she works with Moro to ferry the spirits, and there's a mysterious meddling stranger who can see the spirits too, dun, 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 and he views them more as tools, whereas she is like, "Oh, they've been here, their time has come to pass, they've done what they needed to do." So you're trying to figure out who he is and his connection to the guy that lived there before, and he's also looking for the Book of the Dead, and all the while she's trying to go to high school. But it's super cute, and you get to meet these little tree spirits that kind of remind me of a Studio Ghibli film, but they're slightly creepier.
Like Princess Mononoke?
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but they are definitely
And
more
then the dragon
Halloween-like.
kind of looks like Spirited Away.
He does.
He's one of the first spirits to cross, and then you have the
Cool.
Japanese spirit of thunder and lightning, and they're always together. And then because they were separated, she's able to reunite them because the mysterious stranger had one of them. And then the drought that they're having, they make a thunderstorm and rain comes, so then the drought's lifted. So it's interesting.
Cool.
It was a little weird, but I'm interested to see where the story goes
Right.
next. So
How
that
many
is
do we have
Ghostly
right
Things.
now?
I think just the one, because I was trying to see like, will it check out? I'm the first one to check it out. So check it out, see what you
I
think.
want to read it. It sounds
Yeah, me
interesting.
too.
Yep. So that is that, with 12 seconds to spare.
All right. So my next book is XOXO by Axio, and it is a K-pop romance.
Oh.
And at first, after I finished reading it, I was just kind of like, ugh, it was formulaic and kind of. But then when I thought about it, most K-dramas follow a formula anyway,
Yeah.
right? And all my favorite ones follow the exact formula. So I actually did kind of like this. It's, the girl meets guy, girl thinks guy's a bad guy, doesn't actually like him, and then he's like already really interested in her because she's weird. And her name is Jenny, and her uncle runs a karaoke bar in
That's fun.
somewhere in the United States. I forgot where they start out, but they're in the U.S. first. Jae-woo is the male lead, and he is already a K-pop artist. She does not recognize him because she could care less about K-pop, and she likes the old stuff. She doesn't really care about the new stuff. And she actually makes fun of his song, like the first time she meets him, like, "What the heck? What's that word? What's that name? XOXO," and that's the name of his band. And she's like, "XOXO, that's just dumb." And he's just like, "Oh, yeah."
Okay.
But
Ow.
he's all beat up when she first meets
Oh,
him.
no.
So she thinks he's a gangster. And she chases him out of the karaoke bar. They have a couple of more meet cute moments, but really the story mostly takes place when they both end up in Korea somehow, which is, it still kind of happened too quickly for me. But they end up at this prestigious music school where everyone in there is trying to make it or break it. And she, I forgot what instrument she plays, but I love how she really does grow in this, even with all of the K-pop drama that's going on, because she's got to be the secret girlfriend. Because don't know if you know this, but the K-pop idols sign like a 10-year contract where they're not allowed to have relationships.
No.
Yeah, they're supposed to be like married to their fans. So if they have them, they're in secret, and if they're busted, it can just destroy their whole career. And it's really cute. It was really cute and very up and down, and a lot of teen angst and everything, so fun and enjoyable, and I do recommend it. XOXO by XEO.
I've noticed more and
That's
more
cute.
like K-pop themed books are
Yes.
coming out, whether it's
And
trying to
K-drama.
become a dancer or the K-dramas, which I know
Yes.
a bunch of us watch.
I love those. I can't remember, I talked about another
Look at
one.
me because I don't.
I
I
talked about
I did.
I am Korean and I don't watch them.
I only watch
love
some
them.
things.
I absolutely
My
love
mom loves General Hospital.
Yes. Oh, not General
So-
Hospital. It's Hospital Playlist. That's the one I'm watching right now.
So she doesn't even watch. I don't know. She might have when she was over there.
I watch one a night. You can get them on YouTube, and they're like half-hour long ones where they only show you the best parts with the couple that you want to see, and
Oh
they
my
take
gosh,
out
that's
everything
so
else.
Oh, no.
It's the only way I can watch them now, and they're so great.
God.
Netflix has a ton of them. I recommend
Yes.
Hospital Playlist. A new episode comes out every Thursday.
I just watch manga. Like
Anime.
full metal- Anime.
Anime.
Sorry.
You read manga.
I read manga. I watch that. That's how much I do.
There's the J drama and the C drama too. I love the C
Oh,
drama.
C dramas. Yes,
They're
I've
so, but
watched
they're
3
so
in
long.
Mandarin.
They
Yes.
drag it out, man.
Like 24 episodes for a season, and it's like
and
okay.
they're like long episodes, an hour and a
Yes.
half long, but they're so good.
Agreed.
Like the Pillow Book, I absolutely love the Pillow Book.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry.
This is a whole new show you guys need to talk. Okay, so my book, The 100 Years of Lenni and Margot. It's an adult new fiction, but I just picked it up because, I don't know, somebody told me it was good, I think, and it was really cute. So one of the characters is 17, she's Lenni, and the other is 83, she's Margot. And together, that they equal 100 years, so that's what the
That
book is
cute.
about. So it takes place, the whole thing is in a hospital in Scotland, and Lenni's parents are not really around. We know she's in the terminal ward, so she talks about how she thinks that's stupid because terminals make her think of airports, like she's on her way to somewhere else, but really she's stuck in this hospital. And so we find out all her history, and then she meets Margot in like an art therapy class in the hospital, and they decide that they're going to paint one painting for each year of their lives. So at the end, they'll have the 100 paintings. And of course, Margot's life is much longer than Lenni's, so there's a lot more scenes in the book from Margot's point of view, but they switch back and forth quite a bit. And it's sad and so good. So I'm sure you can imagine where it's
Sounds
going,
good.
but it's
Yeah.
really good, yeah. And so Margot, you know,
I'm gonna
she's
cry.
83. She's lived so much life. She grew up during the war and all that stuff, so there's a lot of historical
So Lenny can really
aspects.
learn from Margot.
Yeah, and then Lenni's story is just heartbreaking too, so it's good.
I love a good cry fest.
I know, if you just feel like in the mood for something to break your heart a little bit, this will do it.
I love that it's a good book because I have a couple of those that I recommend to my mom, and she's like, every book you recommend to me makes me cry.
Oh.
I mean, it's beautiful. Wesley the Owl, you know what's gonna happen.
Oh.
And then the Karen feeding of a pet black hole, and like so many
Oh my
others, and you
goodness.
just sob, but they're so good.
I have a new book I have
It's
checked
cleansing.
out. It's called Vampires, Hearts, and Other Dead Things, and I know it's gonna make me cry. And I'm like, I'm so excited, but also like, I don't have.
You have to psych
I
yourself
have
up
to get
read
ready
it.
for
Yeah.
it. So it's like I'm just gonna make myself really scared with Halloween books, and then I'll read it and get it all
Read two
out.
funny books, then read a sad book. And two funny
Exactly.
books, and then a sad book.
Exactly.
You have to
Yeah.
balance it out.
Okay, so I have one more to talk about, and this is, you know, when you guys were little, if you had all of the choose your own adventure books where you're reading and then it's like, they're at a cliff. Do they turn around and run the other way, or do they jump? Go to page 30 if they jump, go to page 15 if they... So that's what this is, but it's Romeo and Juliet.
Oh.
So it has, I think it says it has over like 350 ways that the story can go. So you can pick, like I only read one scenario of it, but like I can see how you can sit there and read like all of them. So the little thing about it that made me want to read it was it's like, what if Romeo never met Juliet? What if Juliet got really buff instead of moping around all day? What if they teamed up to take over Verona in robot suits? This choose-your-own-path adventure of Romeo and Juliet, filled with fun puzzles, secrets, and quadrillions of possible storylines, lets you decide where the plot goes every time you read. You may play as Romeo or as Juliet or as both of them at the same time. You might even unlock additional playable characters. So it's so funny. Like, you're reading it, and there's like some pictures throughout, like that's the end of one of them. And like if you just look, like there's so many different endings throughout, and
Oh my gosh.
it's so good. Like there's so many different things that can happen. And the one thing that I didn't like about it was also my favorite part, is that like you have to jump around so much. So like if I don't want to finish the whole story in one day, where am I going to put my bookmark? Like, how do I know where to stop it? Kind of thing. So like
Maybe tabs on the side to
Yeah.
mark the number that you're at.
So I recommend like sitting down for an hour, reading 1 or 2 stories of it, and then like come back to it later, kind of thing. Because you can't just read it cover to cover; it does not work.
I
that
like
way.
the idea of if you reach the ending and you were not satisfied, just
Yeah,
go back and do it
Exactly.
again.
Just go back to the
Change the
beginning, and
ending.
there's literally so many different choices that you can have.
I saw someone stab with a sword.
So it's like this one right here, 77. It's kiss him now. Turn to page 104. Play hard to get. Turn to 88. So like you just like you get to always make every decision for the characters. And I know sometimes when I read books, especially like old Shakespeare books, it's like, why are you doing that? That's so dumb. Do something different. And now you can. You can fight Verona with robot suits. Like it's great. So yeah, and he also has another one for Midsummer Night's Dream. Hamlet. There's one.
That would be fun.
Oh, Hamlet.
Let me see which one is. It's in here somewhere. Oh, somewhere. I will look it up and put it down. Yeah, it's really funny and very good. The end.
All right, my next one is by Kamome Shirahama. It's called Hat Atelier, Volume 1. I know at least we have volumes 1, 2, and 3, because those are the ones I have checked out. There are more, I believe, at Port Charlotte. So there is a young girl who's featured on the front. Her name is Coco, and she lives in a world of magic. So she washes her clothes in a magic stream. There are animals. There are Pegasi that pull carriages, and there are witches, but you have to be born a witch. You can't just be made a witch. But she's like, oh, I want to know where magic comes from. I want to know, I want to know, I want to know. And so she happens to see a witch named Kifre, make magic by drawing. A carriage comes through a hamlet full of rich people who want to buy some of their woven cloths, and 2 local boys damage the carriage, and a guy that came in had been looking for some fabric. He's like, oh, I can fix it. Your job, Coco, is to guard the door and let no one see what I'm about to do. And through an accident, actually, she doesn't go to peek, she sees him drawing on the floor, and that reminds her of when she was little and they were at a festival in the main city. A witch in a mysterious mask gives her a picture book of magic and a magic wand, which is this fountain pen. And then she's like, oh, she puts 2 and 2 together. I don't need to, wave a wand to do magic. It's drawing. And so she copies the sigils, and a conversation that she had had with Kifri makes him come back to her house at night and ends up rescuing her, but the spell or whatever that she was trying from this apparently forbidden book of spells turns her mother into stone. So she becomes his apprentice to try and learn magic to see if there's any way that she can reverse it. So you have drama between her and his other apprentices, who are all female. You have the mysterious witch from her childhood is showing up to give her little tests. And so the forbidden book of spells is kept in this tower, and you have to go through a trial by 4 librarians as you learn magic to be able to go and look at the spells. So it's very interesting, and you can tell who's a witch because they have these pointy hats.
I love it.
And so it's really cute, and it ends on a cliffhanger, and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I have book 2 and 3 at home, because I was like, I want to know, because literally they are staring down a dragon. Where are you? Maybe. A big butt dragon.
They're just like walking. It's like, oh hey dragon, what's up?
Ooh. Oh, I like the
Well, she's running after the
Don't give
witch
anything
whom
away.
she
Don't give
sees
stuff away.
when she was little.
Stop. You're giving too much away.
And
Too much.
go.
You already did.
Yep,
Yep,
whatever.
too much.
It's all-
Stop it.
It kind of reminds me of how Full Metal Alchemist starts.
Yes. That's what I was
You
thinking.
know, the accident with the mom.
Because I watched that one.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so I grabbed a couple of manga that I absolutely love, and I always reread these every year.
I love
Hana-kimi
Hana-Kimi
so
so
much.
much.
We need a separate show that's just watch Liz and Ashley talk about manga and anime
Yes, I
and
love it.
K-dramas.
The K-drama
So-
of this is so much better than the Japanese one, and it has Cho Min-ho from Shiny in it.
Yes, yes. The Japanese one, I have to say, that y'all could have done better, do better.
Seriously, they're sad.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
just not. But Hana-kimi is wonderful. It is actually a little closer to the manga, though, than the Korean one.
Yeah.
The Korean one, they kind of have put their own spin on it. I liked it, but there's a reason I love the manga.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, this one is so good. So, Mizuki is absolutely in love with this guy Sano, who is a high jumper. But he disappears for a little while. He doesn't high jump. What?
Of course he's a high jumper.
What else would he possibly be?
Right.
That's his sport.
Did I say it wrong? Is he
No, no, you're right, you're right.
He's a high jumper, and he's one of the best. And then he goes away for a little while. He disappears, and she wants to know why. So she packs up her things, and she heads to Japan. And because she's actually living in the United States. And so she just travels across the world to go see him. But the problem is, he lives in a boys' dormitory. So guess what she's got to do? Gender bended. She's got to cut
She's
her
just
hair.
scaring herself as a guy.
Yes, and she becomes his roommate. And
Oh my gosh, this
hilarious.
is She's the Man.
She's the Man. It's very similar, yes. It's so good. Except for in the She's the Man, Amanda Bynes just wants to play versus trying to get this guy
Yeah,
to play.
she just wants to play soccer.
And so she's doing her best to try to get him to go back to high jumping. And she's hilarious. She's forgetful. She's funny. She's still growing. She's still like a young growing girl. So she has to bind her breasts, you know, and hide the fact that she's a girl. And you know, as she grows, it's just hilarious, all of it. And there's another guy who can't figure out why he's attracted to her because he's a guy, and this is a guy, and he's like, oh, I can't do that. I don't know what's going on. And there's just so much fun. It's just very fun. And they don't know she's a girl for like the longest
That's what I
time,
was
so-
going to ask. Does the high jumper person know her?
He does know her because she's one of his biggest fans.
Okay.
They met before.
So he
years-
knows that
I mean,
she's hiding?
yes.
Not initially.
It's hard. I can't give things away, but
Okay.
it is so good. He doesn't
But
know
eventually
initially.
he realizes.
Yes,
Okay.
and
But then you have
it's
this-
funny because when he does realize, he's got to protect her from her stupid schemes. So, because she's got some.
There's a small group of guys that kind of figure it out, and so they're all trying to like keep her secret, and then let her know like, oh, we don't know that you're not a guy. It's like, oh
And
yeah,
she's
you're a
clumsy.
great dude.
And she's clumsy as heck.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
it's so
yes.
funny. When Sano gets drunk, he turns into a kissing monster. Oh, it's just so much fun. It is. Okay. All right, the other one is High School Debut, and it's another one of those silly, fun ones where it's not a gender bender, though. She stays a girl, but she's tomboyish. So she doesn't know how to be a pretty makeup kind of girl, but she wants a boyfriend. So she enlists the help of this rough-hewn guy who's been burned in the past. Is like, I don't want any relationships. I'll make you a deal. I'll help you turn into a girl or turn into a more makeup girl, if you don't fall in love with me. And hilarity ensues. It's great. And there's a love triangle in this one
She's
too.
gonna fall in love with him.
And she's hilarious because she's always like tunnel vision. I know what I want. I know what I'm gonna do, and it doesn't matter what's around her. She just plods through it. And she's hilarious, and she's emotional. She cries all the time. She looks like a boy, but she's like all the time, and it's just really good. So I recommend these High School Debut and Hana-kimi. They are finished. They are long, but they are awesome. And we have them.
Cool.
Oh.
So the last book I don't have on hand that I wanted to talk about, it's by Courtney Gould, and it's called The Dead and the Dark. So let me read you the description. Because I feel like I liked it at the time, but now 3 weeks later, I'm like, what even happened? I don't know. I don't know what that says about the book. It's probably more on me than the book. It says, something is wrong in Snakebite, Oregon. Teenagers are disappearing, some are turning up dead, the weather isn't normal, and all fingers seem to point to TV's most popular ghost hunters who have just returned to town. Logan Ortiz Woodley, daughter of TV's Paraspectors, has never been to Snakebite before, but the moment she and her dads arrive, she starts to get the feeling that there's more secrets buried here than they originally let on. So another girl, Ashley Barton, her boyfriend was the first teen to go missing, and she's felt his presence ever since. So she thinks, she's hoping that he's still alive. Everybody's still like hoping that he's alive, but he's been missing, and when the book starts, they're at his funeral. So they decided it's been long enough, we're gonna have a service, but she's still hoping behind the scenes. But she also like feels his presence, so it's almost like he's a ghost too, so I don't know what that tells you. Now that the Ortiz Woodleys are in town, his ghost is following her, and the only person Ashley can trust is the mysterious Logan. So the two girls team up to figure out who or what is haunting Snakebite. Their investigation reveals truths about the town, their families, and themselves that neither of them are ready for. As the danger intensifies, they realize that their growing feelings for each other could be a light in the darkness. So, yeah, it was good. I do remember really liking it, and like.
Was this a magical thing? Supernatural?
Not really. There is a little paranormal aspect, I guess, but there's not really like magic per se.
I mean, when you said ghost hunters, I'm like,
Yeah.
TV ghost hunters or like real ghost hunters?
It is like his spirit is trying to warn
Yeah.
them about what's happening, but that's really the only paranormal thing.
Okay.
But it was good if you're in the mood for it. I think it's a good one for October.
There's also one I don't have with me that I'm going to talk about real quick. It's called Martian Ghost Centaur. And it is, yes, Martian Ghost Centaur, and it is a graphic novel, and it's about this girl who lives in this town that became famous when one of her dads posted an American Idol audition tape where he gets chased by a Sasquatch. So this town becomes famous for Sasquatch, and this small town like gets all of this publicity, and all these like tourists come looking for like Sasquatch and everything, and then they find out that like he's not showing up anymore, so they fall off, and this guy comes and tries to buy up the whole town to start up a company. It's a startup company to help startups. It's so funny. So he's trying to buy everything, but her dads aren't wanting to sell their business. So she comes up with this idea to create this Martian ghost centaur, which is like the next generation of Sasquatch, to make the people not want to like make tourists come back and get money. And it's just really cute, and like it's just as crazy as it sounds, and it's like 120 pages, so it's a really fast read, but it's super cute. So Martian Ghost Centaur.
All right. I have not heard of that.
It's good.
Okay, so that's everything that we read this month. That was a lot.
Yeah, sorry.
Good job reading, girls. And, hey, if you guys see any of us in the libraries, come and tell us what you've been reading, because we're always looking for new things to read.
And if you read any of our books, come and talk to us, because we love them.
Yeah, we want to
We
know.
want to
Or
talk about them.
If I talked about one that I didn't like and you loved it, come and tell me why I'm wrong.
There you go.
All right. Hopefully we'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.